For husbands, Veronica. For dead husbands. And the insurance policies. The name changes. The moves across state lines. Do you think I'm stupid? What would you do if you discovered your spouse had buried 4 partners before you? The quiet suburban home at 1428 Oakwood Drive where Robert Donovan lived and died holds the answer to that question. Have you ever caught that split-second change in expression that made you question everything you knew about someone? That fleeting moment when the mask slips and reveals something cold beneath? For 48-year-old financial analyst Robert Donovan, that moment came on January 17, 2023, when he found an old photograph of his wife with a man he didn't recognize, a man she dismissed as just an old boyfriend. But Robert's analytical mind couldn't let it go. His curiosity became suspicion. His suspicion became investigation. And his investigation uncovered a truth so devastating it would cost him his life. On Tuesday, March 28, 2023, at 9:17 a.m., police responded to a call from Veronica Donovan. She had returned from grocery shopping to find her husband dead in his study, a single gunshot wound to his temple, his personal firearm nearby. A suicide, she claimed, tears streaming down her perfectly composed face. But the evidence told a different story. Behind the facade of this loving wife lay a calculated predator who had perfected her craft across 2 decades and 5 marriages. Robert Donovan's meticulous investigation into his wife's past revealed a pattern so methodical, so cold-blooded, that even seasoned detectives were stunned. What deadly secret was worth killing to protect? And how many men had already paid the ultimate price to keep it hidden? Before we reveal how this methodical killer almost got away with murder number 5, take a moment to subscribe to The Crime Insider and hit that notification bell. Your subscription helps us expose predators hiding in plain sight and honors victims like Robert who paid the ultimate price for uncovering the truth. Now, let's examine how Veronica Donovan, dubbed the Black Widow of the suburbs, claimed her victims and almost got away with it. Before she became Veronica Donovan, she was simply Veronica Lambert, the daughter of a prominent family whose wealth vanished overnight when she was 16. Former classmates described her as intensely private with one unmistakable obsession, returning to the wealth and status she had lost. Her high school yearbook held an early warning sign. Under future plans, 16-year-old Veronica wrote, "I'll do whatever it takes to get what I deserve." A former teacher recalled how she once meticulously planned a fundraiser, charming donors while privately referring to them as walking wallets. The transformation accelerated after college. With striking looks and calculated charm, Veronica crafted the perfect persona, warm, attentive, and seemingly devoted. Her target demographic, successful men with substantial assets and minimal family connections. Husband number 1, Michael Pearson, 32. A rising tech executive with a 7-figure portfolio. They met at a charity gala in 2000, married within 6 months. 3 years later, Michael accidentally drowned during their Mexican vacation. Witnesses noted he had been drinking heavily, drinks Veronica had brought him throughout the evening. 2 weeks before his death, Michael confided to a colleague, "Sometimes I catch Veronica staring at me with this strange expression. When I ask what she's thinking, she just smiles." Insurance payout, $750,000. She moved from California to Colorado, subtly altering her name to Veronica Gregory Pearson. Husband number 2, Thomas Gregory, 40. Successful restaurateur. Their courtship lasted 8 months before marriage. 2 years later, Thomas died from an alleged severe allergic reaction to shellfish in a meal prepared by his loving wife. His business partner later revealed Thomas had mentioned finding Veronica researching life insurance policies on his laptop. "She said she was just making sure we were protected," Thomas had told him. But something felt wrong. The medical examiner never questioned why a man with no previous shellfish allergy would suddenly develop one. Insurance payout, $800,000. She relocated to Illinois, becoming Veronica Lambert Faulkner. Husband number 3, William Will Faulkner, 45. Investment banker. 4 years of marriage ended when Will was found in his running car inside their garage. Carbon monoxide poisoning ruled accidental. What investigators missed: Will was meticulous about car maintenance and had the vehicle serviced just days before. His sister later recalled Will mentioning that Veronica had been asking strange questions about his will. Insurance payout, $950,000. Arizona became her new home as Veronica Reynolds. Husband number 4, Anthony Tony Reynolds, 50. Real estate developer. Their third anniversary hiking trip ended with Tony falling from a cliff while Veronica was taking photos in another direction. No witnesses. No questions. A week before the trip, Tony's assistant overheard him on the phone saying, "I don't know, something's different about her lately. She keeps talking about what I'd want my legacy to be." Insurance payout, $1 million. With each death, Veronica's methods grew more sophisticated. The drowning could have been accidental. The allergic reaction, unusual but plausible. Carbon monoxide poisoning, a tragic oversight. A hiking accident, unfortunate but not suspicious. Each death more carefully orchestrated than the last, each investigation less thorough than it should have been. Each move across state lines brought a new subtle name variation and new social circles where nobody knew her past. She joined community organizations, attended church, volunteered at charities, building an impeccable reputation as the perfect partner. By the time she met Robert Donovan in New York, Veronica had amassed over $3.5 million in life insurance payouts and perfected her predatory pattern. For Robert Donovan, the clock wasn't just ticking, it had nearly run out. It began with a photograph. While organizing their home office, Robert Donovan came across an unfamiliar image tucked inside an old book, Veronica standing beside a handsome man, both smiling on a yacht. When questioned, she dismissed it, just an old boyfriend. But something in her voice, a slight tension, caught Robert's attention. That night, curiosity led him to search Veronica Lambert online. Nothing unusual appeared until he tried variations of her name. Veronica Reynolds yielded an obituary mentioning a devoted wife. The deceased? Anthony Reynolds. His hands trembled as he opened the digital obituary. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead while he read about the tragic hiking accident that claimed Anthony's life. Robert's mouth went dry as he recognized the familiar pattern, a pattern that now included him. Robert's financial analyst mind switched into high gear. He created a spreadsheet, tracking names, dates, and locations. One husband might be tragic. 2, unfortunate. But as his research deepened, Robert identified not 2, but 4 deceased husbands before him. He approached it like a financial audit, David Wilson, Robert's best friend, later explained. Rob never jumped to conclusions, he followed data patterns. One evening, while deep in his investigation, Robert heard Veronica's car in the driveway, home 2 hours early from her charity committee meeting. Heart racing, he quickly closed browser tabs, slid documents into desk drawers, and cleared his search history. She walked into his office just as he pulled up a spreadsheet of client portfolios. "Working late again?" she asked, placing her hands on his shoulders. "Just finishing up," he replied, fighting to keep his voice steady as her fingers rested inches from his throat. Using his professional access to financial databases, Robert documented a troubling sequence: marriage, death classified as accident or natural causes, insurance payout, relocation, name modification, and then repetition of the cycle. His office became command central. Red string connected newspaper clippings on a corkboard, hidden behind a false panel in his closet. Folders held death certificates, marriage licenses, and insurance policies. He created timelines spanning nearly 2 decades. Most telling was the duration pattern. Each marriage lasted between 2 and 4 years before ending in death. Robert and Veronica had been married 3 years and 8 months. Night after night, Robert debated his options. Go to the police? With what? Circumstantial evidence and coincidences. They'd dismiss him as paranoid. Confront Veronica? If his suspicions were correct, that would sign his death warrant. Flee? Abandon his life, his career, his home, with no guarantee she wouldn't find him? "I'm trapped," he wrote in his private journal. "If I stay, I die. If I run, I live as a fugitive. If I fight, I need evidence no one can ignore." Growing increasingly desperate, Robert reached beyond documents. He contacted Thomas Gregory's sister, who revealed her brother never ate shellfish in his life. He hated the smell. Yet official reports stated he died from shellfish consumed at home, a meal Veronica had prepared. He spoke with Will Faulkner's mechanic, who confirmed Will's obsession with car maintenance. He checked his vehicles weekly. No way he'd leave that engine running by accident. Robert scheduled appointments with detectives in 3 states where previous husbands had died. His digital calendar showed these meetings set for the week after his death. He knew he was playing with fire, Wilson recalled. The last time we spoke, he said, either I'm going crazy or my wife has killed 4 men for profit. I told him to be careful. I never imagined those would be our final words. As Robert pieced together the horrifying truth about the woman sleeping beside him each night, he made the fateful decision to gather enough evidence to ensure she couldn't escape justice, even if it meant putting himself at risk. Would you confront a killer or silently plan your escape? The choice Robert made cost him everything. Comment below with what you would do if you discovered your partner had a deadly secret. With each revelation about Veronica's past, Robert's perception of his marriage transformed. The warm glances exchanged at breakfast now appeared calculated. Her gentle touches felt like the caress of a predator assessing its prey. One morning, as Robert sipped his coffee, Veronica casually mentioned an article about a man who had disappeared after changing his identity. Isn't it fascinating how people think they can just vanish? She asked, studying his face. They always leave traces. Always. Her eyes never left his as she slowly stirred her tea. Rob changed practically overnight. His colleague James Mercer later testified. He lost weight, developed dark circles under his eyes. When I asked if everything was okay, he just said, "Nothing's what it seems, James. No one is who they claim to be." The day after discovering the 4th husband, Robert drove straight to the police station. He sat in the parking lot for 45 minutes, file folder in hand. But what did he have? Coincidences. Patterns. Suspicions. Nothing concrete enough for an arrest. He drove away, determined to build an irrefutable case first. Robert installed security cameras throughout their home, explaining them away as protection against recent neighborhood break-ins. He began keeping detailed notes of Veronica's comings and goings in a password-protected file on his laptop. His sleep deteriorated to mere fragments, 2 hours here, 30 minutes there, always with one eye open. When the security system alerted him to movement in his study at 2 a.m., Robert felt a surge of validation. The footage showed Veronica trying his desk drawers, checking his laptop. She was suspicious too. His precautions were working. He was one step ahead. This false sense of security emboldened him to dig deeper. Dinner became psychological warfare. "You seem distracted lately," Veronica remarked, pouring him wine. "Work stress." "Just tired," Robert replied, watching her hands carefully, wondering if tonight was the night she'd make her move. "You should take better care of yourself," she said, sliding his plate toward him. "You're not eating enough." He pretended to eat while secretly disposing of food when she looked away. His most crucial defensive measure came when he contacted his life insurance company. The timestamp on his computer would later confirm that Robert had changed his beneficiary from Veronica to his sister Laura just 1 day before his death, a final act of defiance against his wife's expected payday. Detective Martinez would later describe Robert's mindset as that of a man trapped in a cage with a tiger, trying to appear unaware of the danger while plotting his escape. The digital breadcrumbs Robert left proved his growing comprehension of personal risk. Internet search history revealed queries like, "How to safely leave a dangerous spouse," and "What evidence do police need in suspicious death cases?" He scheduled appointments with detectives in Arizona, Illinois, and Colorado, the jurisdictions where 3 of Veronica's former husbands had died. These meetings were set for the following week. He would never make them. What Robert didn't realize was that Veronica had already noticed his strange behavior, his questions about her past, the locked drawer in his desk, the late nights on his computer. The most haunting evidence came from Robert's own phone. Apparently anticipating his confrontation might not end well, He activated his phone's recording function before approaching Veronica in their kitchen 3 days before his death. The recording captures their voices clearly. "I need to ask you something important," Robert begins, attempting a casual tone. "Of course, darling," Veronica responds, the sound of chopping vegetables in the background. "4 husbands, Veronica. 4 dead husbands. And the insurance policies. The name changes. The moves across state lines. Do you think I'm stupid?" The pause. The chopping stops. "You're being ridiculous, Rob. I've had bad luck. Terrible luck. You're seeing patterns where there are none. I called Thomas Gregory's sister yesterday. She told me he never ate shellfish in his life because he hated the smell. Yet he supposedly died from shellfish he ate at home, a meal you prepared." Silence stretches for 12 seconds on the recording. Then Veronica's voice, frighteningly calm, "You shouldn't have done that, Rob. You really shouldn't have." The recording continues for another minute. Mundane kitchen sounds, Robert making an excuse to leave the room. The final words captured are Veronica's, "We should talk more about this tonight. After dinner." That evening, Robert emailed his entire investigation file to his sister with the subject line, "If anything happens to me." He then called his friend David, leaving a voicemail, "I confronted her. I think I've made a terrible mistake." 3 days later, Robert Donovan was found dead. At 9:17 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, Veronica Donovan called 911, her voice breaking with emotion. "My husband, I think he's, oh God, there's blood everywhere. Please hurry." When officers arrived at the upscale colonial home, they found Veronica sitting on the front steps, grocery bags still in her car. She led them to Robert's study where he sat slumped over his desk, a single gunshot wound to his right temple. His personal firearm lay near his right hand. The metallic scent of blood hung in the air as Officer Reynolds surveyed the scene. Sunlight streamed through half-closed blinds, casting striped shadows across Robert's motionless form. A cold coffee mug sat untouched on the desk, a thin film formed on its surface. "I just went out for groceries," Veronica explained between carefully timed sobs. "He seemed fine this morning. Tired maybe, but fine." Detective Cassandra Martinez arrived 30 minutes later. With 20 years' experience in homicide, she approached the scene as a routine suicide investigation. The positioning, the weapon, the lack of forced entry, everything pointed to self-inflicted death. Yet small inconsistencies immediately caught her attention. The gun lay near Robert's right hand, but his watch was on his left wrist. He was left-handed. A suicide note sat on the desk, yet the printer history showed nothing printed that morning. Most telling, despite the close-range gunshot, there was minimal blood spatter on Robert's right sleeve, an impossibility if he had held the gun himself. "Mrs. Donovan, did your husband have any history of depression?" Martinez asked. "No, nothing diagnosed," Veronica replied, clutching a tissue. "But lately he'd been different. Distant. Working too hard. Not sleeping well." Her performance was impeccable, the grieving widow, shocked yet trying to stay composed. She offered coffee to the officers, apologized for her emotional state, mentioned how Robert had been troubled recently. Then came the slip. As Martinez examined the desk, Veronica volunteered. "He never let anyone touch his gun. He kept it locked in the safe." Martinez looked up sharply. "I don't believe I mentioned a safe, Mrs. Donovan. And how would you know the gun was normally locked away if you just found him like this?" Veronica's expression flickered momentarily before she recovered. I just assumed. He was always so careful." During the initial sweep of the study, Officer Jensen noticed something odd about the desk drawer. It had a separate lock from the desk itself. When questioned, Veronica claimed ignorance. "I don't go through Robert's things. That was his private space." The locksmith arrived within the hour. Inside the drawer, Martinez discovered a meticulously organized file labeled simply V. At first glance, it looked like the work of someone obsessed, Martinez later stated. Newspaper clippings, death certificates, marriage licenses, insurance policies, all connected to Veronica and 4 men I'd never heard of. As Martinez flipped through the pages, connections formed. Timelines aligned. Pattern recognition kicked in. What had begun as a suicide investigation shifted into something else entirely. The detective glanced at Veronica, who stood in the doorway watching with calculated concern. Martinez had interviewed hundreds of grieving spouses, had seen genuine shock, denial, collapse. This woman's grief had edges too sharp, timing too perfect, eyes too aware. "I need this entire room processed as a potential homicide," Martinez instructed her team. "And get me everything you can on Veronica Donovan's previous marriages." Martinez had seen this performance before, just never performed so flawlessly. Behind the composed face of the grieving widow, she glimpsed something cold and calculating, the face of a predator who had nearly perfected her craft. The medical examiner's preliminary report raised immediate questions. Dr. Elaine Wong, head of forensic pathology, identified discrepancies that contradicted the suicide narrative. "The gunshot residue pattern is inconsistent with self-infliction," Dr. Wong explained to Detective Martinez. "The bullet entered at an angle suggesting the gun was held at least 2 feet away, physically impossible if Robert pulled the trigger himself." Microscopic examination revealed another critical detail: the absence of gunpowder tattooing typically found in contact wounds. This physical evidence directly contradicted Veronica's account. When confronted with these findings, Veronica maintained her composure. "Perhaps he held it differently? I don't understand these technical details." Detective Martinez watched as Veronica dabbed at her eyes, her voice breaking at precisely the right moments. Officer Ramirez, a rookie on the force, leaned over and whispered, "Maybe we're being too hard on her. She just lost her husband." "My husband was troubled," Veronica continued, her voice soft and vulnerable. "I was trying to help him, but he pushed me away. I should have tried harder." She looked directly at Ramirez, who nodded sympathetically. Martinez recognized the manipulation but said nothing. She needed more evidence. The toxicology samples almost didn't make it to testing. The initial medical examiner had ruled the death a suicide and marked the case closed. The samples were headed for disposal when Martinez personally intervened, insisting on a complete panel. "Run everything," she instructed the lab. "I don't care if it takes twice as long." 3 days later, at 2 a.m., Martinez's phone rang. The toxicology report had found substantial traces of zolpidem, a sedative not prescribed to Robert. The concentration indicated ingestion roughly 2 hours before death, approximately during breakfast, which Veronica had prepared. The amount present would have made him compliant, lethargic, the toxicologist confirmed. He would have had minimal physical resistance capability. Martinez pinned the report to her home office wall, next to photos of Veronica's previous husbands. This case had consumed her. She'd canceled vacation plans, worked through weekends, slept on the office couch. Her supervisor had warned her about getting too invested, but Martinez couldn't let go. 5 men, she whispered to the photos. 5 lives. I promise you'll get justice. Martinez obtained a search warrant for all electronic devices in the home. The tech team recovered the deleted audio recording from Robert's phone, the confrontation where he directly accused Veronica of killing her previous husbands. When the recording was played during questioning, Veronica's demeanor transformed. The grieving widow facade cracked, revealing cold calculation beneath. "That recording proves nothing," she stated flatly. "Robert was becoming delusional. I was humoring him." The search of Veronica's belongings continued. Officer Jensen methodically examined her jewelry box, an ornate wooden case with multiple compartments. As he lifted the velvet lining of the bottom drawer, his fingers detected a slight difference in thickness. Pressing gently along the edges, he felt a subtle click. "Detective Martinez," he called out. "You need to see this." The false bottom revealed a small leather-bound notebook. Martinez pulled on latex gloves before carefully opening it. The room fell silent as officers gathered around. Page after page of meticulous entries, names, dates, dollar amounts. Michael Pearson, $750,000. Thomas Gregory, $800,000. William Faulkner, $950,000. Anthony Reynolds, $1 million. each entry corresponding precisely to her husband's deaths and subsequent insurance payouts. Martinez's hand trembled slightly as she turned to the final page. There it was, the most damning evidence of all, RD followed by $1,500,000 and the note policy change, with yesterday's date circled in red. "My God," whispered Jensen. She was keeping score. Digital forensics uncovered searches on Veronica's private tablet, detecting sedatives in autopsy, gunshot residue patterns, and how long before life insurance policy changes take effect. The culmination of evidence came from Robert's email to his sister, the complete file of his investigation, sent hours before his death with the subject line, "If anything happens to me." Martinez assembled the prosecution's case with methodical precision. The forensic inconsistencies, the sedatives, the recorded confrontation, the notebook tracking deaths and payouts, and most crucially, Robert's own documented investigation. "We've built an airtight case," Martinez told her team, her voice tight with emotion. "This woman has killed 5 times. She won't get the chance for a 6th. When formally charged with first-degree murder, Veronica's only response was, "I want my lawyer." If this revelation about how forensic science exposed a calculated killer shocked you, hit the like button now. The evidence trail that caught this Black Widow is only getting more compelling as we continue. Veronica Donovan's arrest dominated headlines nationwide. News vans lined the suburban street as she was led from her home in handcuffs, her expressionless face captured on cameras across the country. Media outlets dubbed her the Black Widow of the suburbs, a moniker that spread across social media within hours. The community's reaction was one of stunned disbelief. Neighbors who had welcomed Veronica into their homes struggled to reconcile the woman they thought they knew with the monster now revealed. "She organized our neighborhood watch program," said Eleanor Winters, visibly shaken. "She brought me soup when I had pneumonia last winter. How could she? I just can't believe it." Pastor Michael Collins of First Community Church appeared devastated. "Veronica led our charity fundraising committee. She was always the first to volunteer, the last to leave. We prayed together every Sunday." His voice broke. "To think those same hands that helped build our community garden took 5 lives. The public fascination with female killers, particularly those who target spouses, reveals our cultural blind spot," noted Dr. Miranda Chin, forensic psychologist consulted on the case. "We rarely suspect women of calculated, financially motivated murder." Dr. Chen's assessment of Veronica pointed to a textbook case of female psychopathy, characterized by superficial charm, pathological lying, manipulative behavior, lack of remorse, and calculated self-interest. "What makes this case remarkable is her patience," Dr. Chen explained. "Most killers act on impulse or passion. Veronica waited years between kills, methodically building relationships and establishing alibis before executing her plans." In the stark fluorescent light of the interrogation room, Detective Martinez placed photographs of all 5 husbands on the table. 4 hours, Veronica maintained her innocence, her practiced mask of grief firmly in place. Then Martinez played the recording of Robert's final voicemail to his friend. "I confronted her. I think I've made a terrible mistake." Something shifted in Veronica's demeanor. Her shoulders straightened. The tremor left her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were different, cold, calculating, assessing. "You think you're so clever," she said, her voice no longer fragile but sharp as steel. "But you have no idea what I'm capable of." "Actually," Martinez replied, sliding the leather notebook across the table, "I think we do." Veronica glanced at the notebook, then back at Martinez. A smile, nothing like her previous performances, spread across her face. 5 men, 5 payouts, and not one of them saw me coming." She leaned forward. "Do you know how easy it is to make men trust you? They're so desperate to believe." Martinez had the confession recorded. When she left the room, her hands were shaking. Perhaps most disturbing was evidence that Veronica had already selected her next target. Investigators discovered an active dating profile under the name Victoria Lambert on her laptop. Her communications with a 56-year-old widowed executive included questions about his retirement accounts and life insurance policies. She had begun laying groundwork for victim number 6 while still married to Robert, Detective Martinez confirmed. We contacted this man immediately after discovering their correspondence. As news spread, family members of previous victims came forward. Thomas Gregory's sister collapsed when told about the saxitoxin found in her brother's exhumed remains. "I always knew something wasn't right," she said through tears. "Tom called me the week before he died. He said, 'If anything happens to me, look at Veronica.' I thought he was being dramatic. I'll never forgive myself." Anthony Reynolds' daughter expressed similar regret. Dad mentioned feeling strange after drinks Veronica made him. Said they tasted bitter. I told him it was probably just the alcohol. Her voice hardened. She sat next to me at his funeral, held my hand, told me she'd always be there for me. The case prompted authorities in 4 states to re-examine the deaths of Veronica's previous husbands. The bodies of Thomas Gregory and William Faulkner were exhumed for modern forensic analysis. Gregory's remains showed traces of saxitoxin, a powerful neurotoxin found in certain shellfish but also available in purified form through black market sources. This discovery transformed a supposed allergic reaction into clear evidence of poisoning. Faulkner's case revealed tampering with his vehicle's exhaust system, modifications that would cause carbon monoxide to flow back into the car cabin when running. Each death was carefully crafted to appear accidental or natural, explained forensic analyst Jamal Washington. She selected methods difficult to detect with the forensic technology available at the time. As investigations expanded, prosecutors built a multi-state case against Veronica Donovan, charging her with 5 counts of first-degree murder. The FBI established a task force examining similar cases nationwide, concerned she might have additional victims under different aliases. Without Robert's meticulous investigation, Martinez acknowledged, she might have continued indefinitely. His death exposed a predator who had operated successfully for almost 20 years. Veronica Donovan awaits trial in a maximum security facility, having pleaded not guilty to all charges. Her attorney, Marcus Bennett, maintains the evidence is circumstantial, describing his client as a victim of tragic coincidences and overzealous prosecution. Prosecutors disagree. With forensic evidence from 5 cases spanning 2 decades, they're pursuing life imprisonment without parole. Some jurisdictions are considering capital punishment as additional evidence emerges from reopened investigations. The case against Ms. Donovan grows stronger each week, lead prosecutor Amelia Richardson stated. What Robert Donovan began, our justice system will finish. As for the man Veronica was targeting next, 56-year-old widowed executive Richard Keller, he has become an outspoken advocate for awareness about predatory relationships. I was completely taken in by her, Keller admitted in a recent interview. We had dinner plans for the weekend after her arrest. I'd already mentioned her in my will. If not for Robert Donovan's sacrifice, I would likely be victim number 6. Robert's final act wasn't just solving his own murder, it was saving countless future victims. His meticulous documentation, his careful gathering of evidence, and his ultimate sacrifice created a legacy that extends far beyond his own life. In death, he accomplished what 5 previous investigations could not. He stopped a killer who had operated with impunity for nearly 2 decades. My brother was always the one who noticed details others missed, Laura Donovan Harper explained during the Foundation's launch, her voice breaking. As children, he could always find Waldo first. As an adult, he found a serial killer hiding in plain sight. He paid the ultimate price for that discovery, but in doing so, he saved lives we'll never be able to count. The Robert Donovan Foundation now provides resources and forensic assistance for families questioning a loved one's suspicious death, particularly those involving spouses and insurance policies. The foundation has already assisted in reopening 12 cases nationwide, resulting in 3 new murder investigations. The Donovan case has prompted a nationwide review of suspicious spousal deaths involving insurance payouts. In Florida, Texas, and Oregon, cold case units have reopened investigations with similar patterns. 2 additional Black Widow cases have already been identified, with arrests pending. This case serves as a powerful reminder that danger doesn't always announce itself. The most effective predators blend seamlessly into normal life, hiding deadly intentions behind perfect smiles and practiced charm. We expect monsters to look monstrous, Detective Martinez reflected. But the most dangerous people often appear completely ordinary. That's precisely what makes them so effective. Robert Donovan died because he saw through that disguise. As this investigation continues unfolding, we'll provide updates in future episodes. The trial is scheduled to begin next spring, with prosecutors presenting evidence from all 5 deaths as part of a single pattern of calculated killing. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe to The Crime Insider and hit that notification bell to stay informed on this case and others like it. What true crime story should we cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Your engagement helps us bring these important stories to light, ensuring that victims like Robert Donovan are never forgotten and that justice eventually finds its mark. The recording that opened our story became the first domino in a chain that would finally bring justice to 5 murdered men. Robert Donovan's final words to his wife, 4 husbands, Veronica. 4 dead husbands, weren't just an accusation. They were the beginning of the end for one of the most methodical killers in modern criminal history.